From 1971 through to 1978, every Christmas Eve, the BBC broadcast installments of A Ghost Story for Christmas. These were a series of TV movies that were, for the most part, based upon classic works of ghost fiction. Their release on late-night telly on the eve of Christmas harkened back to ye old traditions of sharing supernatural stories around the holiday season. I dare say producer Lawrence Gordon Clark and his team captured that ghostly winter feel with many of these films, including today's focus, 1972's A Warning to the Curious. Like the majority of the TV movies in its series, A Warning to the Curious was based on an old tale by the author M.R. James. Some liberties were taken with the original story to benefit the adaptation to a new medium, but the core remains the same. An amateur archaeologist named Paxton ventures to Norfolk in search of a long-fabled treasure. As the legends go, 3 Anglo-Saxon crowns were created that apparently helped protect the country from invading forces. 2 of them were somewhat accounted for, while rumours circulated that the 3rd remained buried, undetected, somewhere along the East Anglian coastline. Poor Paxton makes this his mission, something he could be proud of should he succeed, an outward expression of his internal sense of failure. That's all well and good, and at first, he seems to be having quite a charming holiday. But as we all know, horror gonna horror. Unfortunately for Paxton, the crown itself is under mystical protection, as a forbidding figure in black begins to stalk him across the disconsolate landscape. It is the aforementioned seasonal ghost story vibe that guaranteed this film's entry into the series. While I am too young to have experienced these films during the initial run, A Warning to the Curious conjures up such a warm coat of nostalgia to counter the chilly atmosphere. It's so fundamentally British, a reminder of the simple tales we English kids were privy to long before we were exposed to lifts full of blood and torture-friendly puppets. Personally speaking, I'm not from that specific area. My family are not from Suffolk, nor were any of my girlfriend's Norfolk Broads, but I am a native of East Anglia, and perhaps that helps me brush over the film's low-budget issues. This is a TV movie by the BBC from the early 70s, so some slack must be cut. But I can't defend the film's opening, which is overall clunky, and damages some of the later mystique.
Can I help you? No digging here. I beg your pardon? No digging here.
I like the way you work it.
No digging here.
It is a short watch and well worth the time. The soundtrack is all kinds of spine tingly-lingy, and really thrusts you into the inescapable yet vague horror of Paxton's situation. Speaking of Paxton, the lead performance is empathetic and suitably curious, delivered by Peter Vaughan, a veteran of British productions, but now more internationally familiar as Aemon Targaryen in Game of Thrones. You also have to love the spooky chase scenes. It should be retitled The Fast and the Curious, Norfolk Drift. An extra shout out to another film in the same Ghost Story for Christmas series, The Signalman from 1976, starring Marcus Brody himself, Denholm Elliott. It's based on the Charles Dickens story of a man who works in a train signal box, who is, just like Paxton, threatened by an abstract spiritual figure. I first saw it in English class, middle of the morning, surrounded by my peers, but I ain't afraid to admit, that motherfucking paleface threw me for a loop. If the weather turns colder and the light draws thin, stoke the fireplace and stick on both films. I guarantee you a classy double bill indeed.